Hi, what do foreigners think about China after visiting in China? So my name is Yuval Bloomberg and I'm going to share with you my own perspective. I guess there are many other perspectives, but I'll share with you my own perspective. If you are new to this channel, so it's all about East Asian cultures, travels in East Asia, places to see, stuff to learn about East Asia. So it's all about it. If this is your interest, please subscribe and ring the bell so you stay updated with the new content I'm uploading. So first of all, I would like to start with people. I lived in Taiwan for 1.5 years and I visited in China plenty of times, and I visited in Taiwan many times after I left Taiwan. So my perspective is referring to both Taiwan and China. I know it's not the same, but again, this is a foreigner perspective. Why? Taiwanese see themselves, most of them see themselves separated and different. But for my eyes, for someone who comes from the outside, and I lived in Taiwan, the common areas are larger and more significant than the areas that are not common. And this is the fact. If I'm looking on the culture, if I'm looking on the history, if I'm looking on the language, if I'm looking on the holidays, if I'm looking on how people behave, so it's a lot of stuff. There is a lot of common. So I'm going to refer to both. So first of all, regarding people, I think some people tend to see, mainly when they are talking about the Chinese, they tend to describe their behavior as rude behavior, mainly if you are engaging with them in the trains, or if you're engaging with them in the airport or in other places like public places. And I can understand people that describe Chinese in this way. I mean, I know where they are coming from, what they are talking about. Because Chinese are very, how to say it, they are very live, they are talking loudly, they are using their hands, and they have their own behavior. But my own experience, I used to work a lot with Chinese. When it comes to personal engagement, I find them very gentle people, polite, not polite in a hypocritic way, but polite, like they are behaving very nice to you, hosting very nice. You have good time when you are with them. I mean, you don't see any sign of being rude or rude behavior. So this is my own impression about Chinese. I didn't meet all the 1.3 billion. My upfront apology. I just met some, and this is my own perspective. Maybe it's related to the people I used to meet and work with, but this is my perspective about it. So overall, Chinese people, they are very nice people, very gentle. It doesn't mean that you can do with them whatever you want. I mean, they have their own limits like any other person on earth. But I'm just challenging the claim that Chinese people are rude people. Chinese people are very friendly. If you are their guest, they will host you in the most generous possible way. I experienced this many times, and it was real pleasure. And actually, the first time I got drunk, and I hope it was the last time, was in China while I was a guest of some people in dinner, and they wanted to respect me, and they wanted to show me their honor, and so they served me more and more alcohol. They drank as well, but they are more sustainable for this. I mean, they can take much more than I cannot drink, basically. So anyway, but I found them very, very friendly. It was not one case, it was not 3 cases, and it was not 5 cases, but it's like something you can notice that this is something which is cultural. It's something that everyone, when you're a guest of someone, you get a lot of respect and a lot of interest. So Chinese, I can say, at least again, my own perspective, they are very, one more thing about Chinese are very proud people. in the history of China, China saw itself as Zhongguo. Zhongguo means the country, the central country that everyone has to respect, everyone has have to recognize as the main country, the central country that you have to come to visit, to deliver gifts. China lost it for at least since the mid of the 19th century, and they are building it, they are rebuilding it, their power now. So I think a lot of Chinese have this legacy, and they really want to restore this legacy. They are very proud of themselves. They are very proud on what they became to be in the in worldwide perspective. But on the same time, I found them very curious about what foreigners are thinking about them, and this is just now an example. I spent a lot of dinners, lunch, breakfast with Chinese people, and when they found that I'm familiar with the culture, with the history of China, so I used to get a lot of questions regarding the future of China. What do I think? I mean, it's not that they, I don't think they thought, oh, you are so smart, but I think it was like they had a real genuine interest of what people from outside, people outside of China thinking about them, how do they see them. So it was very interesting for me, this kind of experience with Chinese. Something that I noticed, if I'm comparing my discussions with Chinese, at least going back 10 years ago and last year, I noticed that Chinese become much more open in terms of political discussions. They are not criticizing the ruling party. I don't think they want to take any risk. China is still controlled by one party. But they are definitely much more open to hear and to discuss about political aspects, maybe which is not directly about about China. But for example, if you get into discussion like China and the US, or what's going on in China and the US, or China in the world, or the future of China, or China in India, or this kind of discussion, Chinese are open to discuss. Actually, I found that most of them are very patriotic, and most of them, I didn't find anyone that, whenever I had the discussions, they were, all the people had the same opinion as the government. And I know people can say, okay, sure, because they don't want to say it's different, but it sounds genuine, it sounds real. I mean, about Taiwan, they all think Taiwan belongs to China. So it's like, this is their opinion. So, but still, I can say that Chinese today are much more open to political discussion, as long as you are not criticizing the ruling party. So this is something which is interesting as well for me when I'm looking on my impression on China for a long time, how it changed. Mianzi. This is something which is critical in China, and I definitely experienced this. I used to give, I delivered dozens of customer-facing short workshops in the company I work for, and the workshop intended to explain engineers, young engineers, how do they have to work with people around the world. And one of the topic definitely was China. So Mianzi is the cover of your cover of the face. It's like your self-respect, honor. So for me, my impression about this is definitely, this is something very, very important in China. Definitely something that you need to follow up, need to be careful, not to humiliate anyone in China in front of people. So definitely it's affect my behavior when I'm with Chinese. I'm very careful about this. Even if I have something to say, I'm very sensitive, and I find I'm looking for the right opportunity to say things and to manage myself with the Chinese. Because I know it's the highway to burn yourself in China with people is not to understand what is Mianzi and to go over it, even if doing it in a very innocent way, and people can do it in very innocent way, but still for a Chinese is something that cannot be done. Food in China. Wow, I can talk about it so much. And again, when I'm saying China, I'm saying Taiwan because this is something really, it's enormous. First of all, I will say like this. The number of dishes I saw is enormous. It's like endless. It's like I don't, I could never count. It's so many different dishes um, everywhere. So it's very rich cuisine. However, um, I must say my impression about the food, it was not, most of it was not my cup of tea. Today I'm vegetarian, but back then I was not vegetarian. It was very, very difficult for me to eat chicken or beef in China. Actually, I tried to avoid it only in Western restaurants because the way Chinese cook or prepare chicken or beef is very different. And I think most of the people I know, the Western people I know, they had a difficult time to overcome this and to consume this kind of the hardcore Chinese food. I have some dishes which used to be my favorite. For example, Kung Pao chicken. I will not eat it today because I'm vegetarian, but it was something very, very tasty. I like a lot the vegetarian dishes with the cooked green vegetables. Really, I can eat this without stop. Very, very tasty. All the vegetarian dishes, very tasty. I like it a lot. And I like a lot the way Chinese are eating. Again, I said before, I've been guest in so many dinners and lunches with Chinese, and Chinese have the round table, and everyone's sharing. So I like it a lot. I'm from Israel, so it's like very social way to eat together, share your food together, talking and having your own private room and drinking and laughing, get drunk, and a lot of very good atmosphere. Actually, people smoking in the room. I mean, something you cannot find today in Europe or in the US, but in China you can find it. I'm a social smoker, so for me it was okay, and I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the whole atmosphere around the dinner or the lunch. It was really a great experience. I think everyone that will come to China will experience this in China, will enjoy a lot. If he or she, anyone who has the opportunity to participate in a dinner or a lunch with Chinese people as their guest and enjoy this special way of eating with the round table that everyone share the same dishes. So this is something for me I like a lot. Usually I gain weight when I'm coming back from China. One of the things I noticed when I came to China and Taiwan the first time was in the food, was the difference between Western cuisine, even I'm not talking now about it in general, it can be American, French, Israeli, never mind, but Western cuisine and Chinese, Taiwanese cuisine. The only source for carbohydrates in Chinese, Taiwanese cuisine, it's in the rice. I mean, they're not consuming any bread. You can find now, today, you can find a lot of bread in China and Taiwan. You can find in dedicated bakeries or shops, but it doesn't have the same role in your diet as in Western cuisine. It's very, very different. So this is the only source for this. It's in rice, and basically they're not consuming it. So I think this is one of the reasons, because even Chinese and Taiwanese, they have very fried, a lot of fried dishes. They still remain thin. It's because of this. They are not consuming it. They are not consuming it during the day. Almost not at all. Just maybe one dish of rice in the middle of the day or in the evening. This is basically, and some of them even are not consuming this. And the second important thing is basically there is no dessert in typical Chinese dinner or lunch. So this is something which I found very healthy. Actually, the dessert was only fruits. Can be watermelon, oranges, melon, depend on. But basically, this is it. I never saw cake or something sweet, artificial, processed food at the end of Chinese meal. Never. So I think this is something which is very good for Chinese. Actually, Chinese who left their own traditional diet and moved to Western diet, I think this is the moment when they started to become fat people. Because otherwise, Chinese who are following Chinese diet, I think most of them, this is how they look like in the street. Most of them are thin people. Transportation in China. Actually, I found it easy. It's China made huge jump. I remember I visited Beijing before and after the Olympic Games, and it was amazing what happened in Beijing during this time. If I remember correctly, the Olympics game took place in 2008, and I've been in 2006 and then in 2010. And it was amazing to see what China did. It was almost like overnight. It happened in 1 year or 2 years, but like the whole infrastructure of metro was built very, very quickly. I think transportation in China is very is easy, is not complicated, but need to be to a lot of traffic jams in the big cities, mainly in Beijing, Shanghai. Outside of the city, it can take hours really to get out of there, to get inside there. So this is something need to be considered. And I don't want to mention people who are traveling in China during the New Year, because you have to be crazy if you're a tourist and you are traveling in China during this time, because you can stuck for a day in a traffic jam. This is something which is known. There are pictures of millions and millions of people stuck on the ways when they are trying to get back home at the New Year, Chinese New Year. But overall, I think I find transportation in China very easy, very modern, so it's nice to use. My impression about this was actually very good. Security and safety in China, overall, I must say, I think I never felt, it's like this is something typical to East Asia. It's same for India, it's same for Thailand, it's same for China, Taiwan, Japan. I think I don't have this feeling of security definitely not in Western countries, definitely not today. I mean, China you feel very safe in the streets. I remember I walked out in Taiwan or in China in side streets late at night. I felt safe. I didn't feel any threat, anything that was like, I didn't feel anything that can be risky or can be danger for me. And this is something which is very nice to experience when you're in these countries. There is one thing, I experienced it in China partially. Once we were walking, I was with a friend and we were walking in the street in Shanghai. It was one of the main streets nearby the sea, and it was like 7 p.m. in the evening. So suddenly a young woman approached us and tried to make friend with us. She was talking with us nicely, asking where are you from. She looks very innocent, very cute, like very like not harmful, not cannot cause you any problem or something. We were walking with her. Actually, she was walking with us maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and after that, suddenly we saw a police patrol. They came towards us and they stopped her. They just prevented her from keep walking with us physically. They just surrounded her and didn't let her walk. She tried to protest, and when you are in this kind of situation, you think, oh, this is China, this is how they behave, this is what they are doing to the people, and you have all this kind of immediately. So it's like we didn't understand it, but we didn't have any choice, but we didn't speak with them. We just kept on going. And later on, we've been told by our friends, Chinese friends, that this was a sex trap. This lady intended to lead us to a place that is doing a massage. Actually, this was like she supposed to offer it to us. We supposed to accept this offer, and then we would have been taken to another place. and then she should disappear. She would have been disappeared, and we would have stayed with gang members that blackmail us and asking for our money, and won't release us before we give money. This was the plan actually. We were not aware about this, and this is what the patrol This is why the police patrol prevented her to continue walking with us. So this is something we need to be aware. But it was not any threat to our safety or security. Overall, I'm saying again, the overall feeling is very safe and very secure. So I think it's a great to have this feeling when you are traveling in China. Places to see. China is huge. China is 9.5 million square kilometer. For example, just for comparison, the US is 9.9 square kilometers. So it's like one of the biggest countries on earth. Russia, it's like 16 million square kilometers. Really huge country. In order to cover all China, you need to go through different many life cycles. You cannot cover China in one life cycle, unfortunately. So this is something. This is a fact. There are endless places to see in China. I saw some. I guess I saw very little of China, but I saw. There are a lot of places to visit. If you go to Beijing, you can walk. I think the best way for a tourist to go is to go by foot in the big cities, definitely. This is the only way to see the city, but not by train and not by a car. So my impression about this is that China is so rich. I know many places were destroyed by Mao Zedong during the Cultural Revolution. A lot of ancient temples, but still there are a lot of other things to see, a lot of ancient stuff, because China has such ancient history. They built so much, so there is still a lot to see in China. So whether you are in Shanghai, in Beijing, in Xi'an, the Terracotta Soldier, or in Beijing, actually, you can spend definitely a week without any problem. Shanghai, I think 2-3 days can be enough. Definitely in the city, maybe in the city itself. I know it's a big city, but again, I think it's less in comparison to Beijing. You have other places, Hong Kong for sure. You can spend much more time, and in Xi'an and Shandong area as well. And China is huge. China is huge. There is plenty to see. I really want to visit again and again in China. Actually, as this channel is about, my focus is only about East Asian countries like India, China, Japan, Taiwan, Thailand, Burma, and other countries in this area. So definitely there is a lot to see. I plan to go back again, to come back again, and to see more. I really want to go to the rural area, which I haven't. Unfortunately, I didn't have the chance to visit. But overall, my impression about China was a very good impression, and this is kind of impression that won't make you want to come back again and again. Thank you very much, and if you didn't subscribe to this channel, please subscribe and give me like. Thank you very much. Bye bye.